Hey everybody, it's me, Greg, and guess what? I am up for Most Entertaining Online Personality at the South by Southwest Gaming Awards, and it would mean the world to me if you went and voted for me. Of course, every time we win one of these things, it's a win for Kinda Funny, and it's a win for you because we get to go there and be like, hey, people who've never heard of us, guess what? People like us, and everybody goes, who are you? And they go, maybe I want to be a best friend, or they're jerks, and they say, we'll stay away from everybody. So if you go to kindafunny.com, SXSW, and vote Greg Miller for Most Entertaining Online Personality, I would take it as a personal favor that I will never, ever be able to repay you for. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOverGreggy show. I am one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
Colin, if you rev that thing any harder, you're not getting into heaven.
Yeah. Did you ever find your eyeglass cleaner?
No, I didn't. Well, you told me when I asked if Colin had any. Well, I asked you first, do you have any? You said no. But Colin for sure has some.
Yeah.
And I said, do you know where it is? And you said no. Feel free to go root through his room.
I did.
To which I responded, if Colin catches me rooting through his room,
you're not going to really find anything very interesting.
Colin was in the shower. Can you just come out? He's like at the top. I was like, what the hell are you doing in here?
He would, but that's the thing is, like, Colin's one of those guys that if you betray his trust just once, you're never getting back into that tree.
Sure,
I'm never getting back into the tree of trust. And I cherish the tree of trust.
You do.
I like being in that circle tree. There's a circle with a tree in it, and I'm in the tree of trust right now. You guys are all out of it.
Yeah.
Kevin has never been in it.
Kevin doesn't even know.
Kevin
doesn't even understand.
Kevin can't even see the tree.
Through the forest.
No,
the forest.
no, he's on the other side of the gate.
In a desert. There's no tree.
You're like Zacchaeus. Do you remember Zacchaeus? The tax man? Colin, back me up.
What the fuck is
Zacchaeus.
happening?
A wee little man.
I'm sorry, I'm not listening.
A wee little man was he.
What the fuck are you talking
remember
about?
Zacchaeus?
It's too early.
We're filming later in the day.
I'm sorry that I'm back on this show.
We don't film this late normally. It's been a long day.
Oh my God.
Did you say Selena Gomez? Was she involved in this?
I want to find you the Zacchaeus song.
Yeah, let's do it afterward.
No, we're doing it. Don't worry, we're doing it. Over here at the Pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
It's good to be back. I forgot I even did this show. It's been so long.
How many have you missed?
I missed 2 in a row.
Matt Scarpino was just so amazing last week.
He was.
He was a great guest.
And over there, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
Let Tim host. And I am hosting now. How fucking exciting is that? Final Fantasy 15 uncovered.
Oh, right,
we can now talk about it.
Yeah, we haven't
Me
talked.
and you doing stuff.
We can
Dreams
announce
coming
the
true.
release date right now.
Mm-hmm. March 30th is the date that the release date will be announced, and it's going to be fun. I'm very excited.
That was fun. Yeah, I guess we haven't talked about that in any shows, really. We talked about it in Colin Greg Live, I guess. But yeah, Tim and I hosted Final Fantasy Uncovered. He's a huge fan. I know nothing about Final Fantasy. Let's see what happens.
Can I ask you just a layman's question?
Sure.
God.
What psychotropic drug are you fucking feeding the people over at Square that they keep letting you guys do this shit?
They like us a lot. We're good hosts. But this one, that made sense because it was funny. When
They've met Colin, right?
Well, yeah, that's why Colin doesn't work with them
Okay.
ever. That when we were doing the when the presentation was going on from Japan, it was taped obviously. I was waiting for them to get to the end to announce the March 30th event or whatever, and it happened. And then Square put up the graphic, put out the press release that announced us, and I had GAF open and I had Reddit open, and I went through, and as soon as the first person who popped up was like, Tim makes sense, but why is Greg there? And I was like, hey, that's exactly what I said to Square when they reached out to us. And they said, no, we understand that, and that's why we want you guys, because you're good hosts, number one. But number two, Tim's the big fan. Greg respects the franchise but doesn't know anything about it, and this game is aimed at both of you. Like, we know we have Tim's money. We want to get Greg's as well. People like
that makes sense.
It's true.
And that was when they sold me, because I was like very much like, oh, I don't know if I should do this.
See, I was most excited. You had Reddit and GAF open. I had Final Fantasy's Twitter and Square's Twitter. And then they retweeted me and liked my tweet, and I felt so fucking happy. That was a moment where I was like, oh yeah. I screenshotted that.
It's funny because, like, you know, I've hosted a lot of stuff. I've done a lot of things. We've worked with Square before. And so this very much for me was like, oh yeah, this is going to be cool when we do this event or whatever. It's going to come around. The announcement, the announcement's happening now. I was getting ready to go out to dinner with Colin. I'm like, oh yeah, that's going to happen, whatever. And then it was like the reaction of everyone. I was like, oh right, this is a bigger deal than I was giving it credit for.
Yeah. I mean, this isn't just like a panel or something. This is a live conference thing in the Shrine Auditorium, which is where they normally do like big E3 press conferences and stuff. EA does theirs there, right? I think it's EA.
I thought it was Sony, but I could be wrong. What is Sony?
Oh no, Shrine's done. Yeah, Sony's done Shrine before.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I remember I think
Shrine's an awesome
years ago.
A lot of people have used it.
It's awesome. Huge thing with like 3,000 people. There's gonna be 3,000 people there.
That's crazy.
Hell yeah.
They're all gonna be Tim
I
Gettys
love being
fans.
an asshole on stage in front of people.
you
3,000 of them. Never done that much.
I'll be back in a second.
Can I put in a request?
Well, Colin Moriarty's return was short-lived at the Game Over Greggy show.
Side note, when's the last time Colin wore real pants?
I don't know. It's getting disturbing. Because for a while it was, can they see my legs beneath the table?
Right.
And if the answer was no, then it was the sweatpants.
Yeah, it was the
I'm sorry. No, that's right. Yeah.
Then it
And
was
if
the
it was
back
yes,
shorts.
he'd go put on jeans. And now it's just fucking over.
He doesn't care.
I appreciate that. I respect that.
Sorry, what the fuck happened to the Resistance 3 frame? It looks like a cat mauled it.
That's been
Like
happening
a big,
for a while.
like a big cat.
Like a big cat.
I think the other one has
Been chipping away at it.
yeah.
Oh, like the things on the back that will hang it up.
We'll get you guys
Velcro did that.
Well, it's
Is it titanium Velcro?
It's the toughest Velcro they sell.
Is it diamond tipped Velcro?
Yeah.
It actually costs about $30,000 a strip. It's wild.
My God.
Also, you should.
Velcro,
if you think that's
you-
bad, you should see the frame behind it.
Let me
It's
tell you
got
a story.
like-
I'm going to tell you a story about Velcro.
Please do.
I used to think Velcro was like this ingenious thing,
It
right?
is.
And
It
it
is.
is. But then I realized, I think I think it's actually the NASA made Velcro. I could be wrong about that. And but then when I learned that it was just hooks with like a bunch of
and
like
loops.
wires that
Yeah.
that every time you rip the Velcro off, it destroys the hooks.
Mhm.
And so it's just I'm like, that's not as smart as I thought it was.
I'm far less impressed now.
Like it because it only be used a finite amount of time. Who amongst us hasn't had Velcro wear out?
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure that I
fuck
have.
Velcro and
Really?
fuck NASA is what I'm
It
saying.
does. It wears out.
What have you had it wear out on?
My North Face jacket. It had little Velcro ties here, and so it wouldn't let the wind go through. And like it was a particularly cold season, so it always like went some shut.
And you're particular about that shit.
But eventually, what happened was you had to go farther and farther to get it to catch because you need to use the part that hasn't been used as much. And so eventually, my hands were turning purple because I was like trying to get the last little bit of Velcro. And my wife just did the thing that all good wives should do, where she just kind of was like, "Honey,
Let it
let
go.
it go, Indiana, let it go."
Your wife, Sean Connery.
She is Sean Connery. My wife is Sean Connery.
Let me
Sir
teach you a little
Sean
thing
Connery.
about Jesus and Zacchaeus.
I wish you wouldn't.
Are you saying?
Oh, this is some religious shit.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember this
Take
one.
notes on this shit for the documentary.
I didn't go to Catholic school early enough to have this being played.
What's going along with this? Is it just
Can
the
you
song? or is
stop
there
now and
visual?
just explain what it is? Because I can't take it anymore.
So it goes this way. There was once
A wee
tax
little man.
collector named Zacchaeus,
Mm.
and the Lord Jesus Christ came to town, and he was walking through, and everybody, was crowding the streets to see Jesus, but Zacchaeus was a wee little man. A wee little man was he,
Mhm.
so he couldn't see the Lord Jesus Christ. So he climbed way up in a sycamore tree
Mhm.
for the Lord to see.
I've been there.
And then I think
You're
Jesus
just
see-
repeating the lyrics.
That's the story. It's
But
best
wha-
told in song.
But why is that a story? Who gives a shit?
Because
What's the fucking parable here?
I believe without having to I'd like to brush up on the video, but I'm remembering the important thing that Zacchaeus was small.
All right, wait. This has all right. So you looked for it and it brought up Luke 19:4.
Yeah,
So that
Zacchaeus
must
the
be.
text.
So that must be.
Oh, they didn't like invent him. This is
I'm
an
not saying
expanded
that. I'm
universe
asking,
Jesus
I'm
stuff. This
not-
is real.
But I'm asking what. So I'm asking what the context is, and it's in the fucking Gospels. That's all I was trying to wonder. So it's Zacchaeus was trying to see who Jesus was and was unable because of the crowd, for he was small in stature. So he ran on ahead and climbed up into a sycamore tree in order to see him, for he was about to pass through that way. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for today I must stay at your house.
Now there's more.
What is
That's
Zacchaeus?
just-
What are you talking about?
that's
Does
just-
Zacchaeus run a fucking Airbnb?
No.
All right, so 19:5. All right, so he ran on ahead and climbed up and wait. Okay, so he ran on ahead and climbed up into the sycamore tree in order to see him, for he was okay here. When Jesus came to the place of the stay house, and he hurried and came down and received him gladly.
This is such a weird way to read this.
It is. That's why I was confused. Okay.
Does anybody ever print the Bible? Can't we
And he
skip-
hurried and came down. When he saw it, they all began to grumble, saying, "He has gone to be the guest of a man who is a sinner."
Yeah.
Now we're getting
Zacchaeus
okay.
is a tax collector.
Right.
Nobody likes the tax collector back in those times. It's much different than now. Nobody liked the tax collector back then. So when Zacchaeus came around and rapped on your door, people were like, this little shit's here for my gold and bread or whatever we use as currency in this time period.
Luke 19:8 says,
I don't think they use bread as currency.
Zacchaeus stopped and said to the Lord, "Behold, Lord, half of my possessions I will give to the poor, and if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will give back 4 times as much." Zacchaeus, no, and Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house because he too is a son of Abraham." Can they just get to the fucking point?
The song would have been done by now, and you would have totally known everything.
We got some weird tangents on the show, but I don't even understand the source of this. There was the Tree of Trust. Is that where this came from?
No, what it was.
Okay.
No, what it was. That gets even better. Because it was from the Tree of Trust, and then we said that Kevin isn't in the tree, and I said, yeah, he's so far outside of the gates he can't see it, which made me think of a little Kevin in rags like Zacchaeus, unable to see the very sycamore tree.
I don't remember
His fat little hands were supposed to climb.
No, I went to Catholic school when I was older, and I don't remember ever hearing about Zacchaeus. But why is the Gospel of Luke written like a fucking Railroad Martin novel?
Because-
just get to the point. How much have you seen the size of the New Testament?
The more complex it is, the harder it is to understand, the more people think it's really smart. Does that make sense?
I guess.
Colin Moriarty.
The only clever New Testament book in my mind, Revelation.
A lot of
Dark
imagination.
as fucking hell.
Which one's the one with the four
it's
horsemen of
so
the
good.
apocalypse?
That's a
Revelation.
That's the one I like.
It's about the end of the world.
Series with Puck.
Exactly. I thought it was based on the WCW stable Four Horsemen.
That's possible.
Ric Flair. Woo! If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Game Over Greggy show each and every week. 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you guys were so generous in the month of January. You, round of applause, got Kinda Funny, the animated series, to 12 episodes, a full season, an animated intros, right?
Yes.
Song? Is that
animated
it?
intro and video.
Gotcha.
Not just the song, but a badass video intro
Okay.
as well that
Sure.
Tim and I are going to strategize on. We're probably going to talk to you guys a little off air
You can just leave. You can
and
just
see
do it.
which kind of.
You know what? I'm
going
going to authorize you to just do whatever you need to do.
Oh no, that's going to happen. I'm just saying we got to. I want to pull from your guys' childhood and figure out what's your favorite sort of like childhood intro, and we're going to ape that.
G.I. Joe, the movie.
I knew it was going to be that for you.
Which really is something fucking special.
Silk stockings.
You're out of this equation. You just
I
lost
told
your
you the
vote.
story about how my grandfather's neighbor, when I was a kid, liked silk stockings. We used to call it silk stockings, and it used to drive my fucking grandfather mad.
I didn't know this.
It's silk stockings. Like they said, I don't know why I always think I could.
What did he say? He would say six.
Silk stockings instead of stockings.
Okay.
And I just that's what I always
You're
think
saying the
about.
same
in my,
word.
You guys are
right?
too young.
No,
you don't remember.
stock-
This is some made up bullshit.
You don't remember
Silk
the USA
stocking,
hit show.
STALKINGS.
like someone's being stalked.
Stalked.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not stalking. That's
when they
stabbing.
That's
That's what
stabbing.
happens
the
at the end of stalking, right? They just stab.
Sometimes.
I've been doing it wrong.
Anyway, that's my only memory of that show.
You also, when you go to patreon.com/kindafunny and toss us a few bucks, get every episode early. Or if you have no bucks to toss, head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where you can get every episode broken up topic by topic, day by day, until the entire show posts as one big video and MP3 on the following Friday. Timothy,
Yes.
what's your topic?
I want to talk about the Fine Bros. They're a YouTube channel. You might have heard of them. They make this show called Reacts.
Yes.
Yep.
They have a bunch of different, there's kids reacts, there's teens reacts, there's seniors reacts, there's YouTubers reacts, there's celebrities reacts.
Are there
a whole
porties
bunch
reacts?
of reacts. Enough. There's a lot of reacts, right? They're very popular. They've been doing the channel for a long time. You guys might have heard that recently they launched React World,
Right.
which is a way for them to license other people to be able to use their format
Sure.
of React content. And it did not go well at
No,
all. The
no,
internet got
no.
very upset. It
Reddit got involved.
instantly went to the top of Reddit, and Reddit was just fucking hating on them, making fun of the video. And then everyone made parody videos, including Mega 64s, which was hilarious. And a whole bunch of other people went hard on this, and they hated, like the internet does.
Yeah.
And that caused the Fine Bros to totally can the program and rescind all of their applications
strikes, yeah.
for, well, not only copyright strikes, all their applications to copyright the word reacts in the terms of whatever it is. I kind of want to get you guys' opinion on this, and I don't know how much you all know about the whole thing, but it kind of came in waves, and I definitely have some thoughts, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
I think that there was that the first wave of feedback was mostly led by fear, and I think that if you, I don't know the Fine Brothers very well. I've only met them a handful of times, and I think that's and even in that it was like in passing after panels, like me just shaking their hands. We know some people that work for the Fine Bros. They're not bad people from what I can infer, but I think a lot of the feedback came from A, this is a brand new thing. B, some of the messaging was a little off point. To the point where I think there was some stuff misconstrued in the messaging that really got people, like, put people in that knee-jerk reaction of this is terrible. They're going to start stalking people for anyone that does a reacts video is going to get, like, they're going to come down on them with a holy hammer. And I don't think that was their intent. Now, I think it did come off that way to a degree, but again, I don't think that was their intent to do that. And I think it's actually kind of sad that they had to pull the program simply because their messaging was a little off. But when you do start breaking it down piece by piece, they could have phrased things slightly better, and I think they probably realized that at this point.
Yeah, they were a little too general with, you don't support other people's content who do reacts, but they were saying, like, because there's people, like, Kind of Funny Reacts isn't at all ripping off Fine Bros Reacts products, right? But there are people who do literally camera pointed at somebody, hear them off camera.
They specifically called out BuzzFeed and Ellen.
Yeah.
Now, Ellen's was a little bit different. It was her sitting around a table with a bunch of kids.
Can I time out?
Yeah.
Internet historian. Did they call? I'm not. Yeah, that's a technical. I'm not giving Kevin a technical yet. Did they? Did they call him out this time, or are you talking about in the past?
This was in the past.
Yeah, I was gonna say to be clear to somebody who we're bringing up to speed right now.
Total past thing. In the past, Ellen made one of her segments on a show was her showing kids technology that they probably wouldn't know, like VCRs, not exactly VCRs, but stuff like that, where it was like, here's some old stuff. What is this? And they just kind of react to it, which is one of the Fine Bros products. You know, like completely.
Kids reacts.
I don't think it was dildos, Greg.
And they reacted to that by going on Ellen's Facebook page. They shared the video on their page and were like, hey, fans of this stuff, this isn't okay. Like, we're not saying that they stole this from us, but they should at least know that we do it. Go on their page and post kids reacts videos, let them know about that. And they admitted that probably wasn't the best tactic to do because
they've admitted that now.
Yes. I think they
the timeline is also. I'm just trying to clarify the timeline for everyone.
Yeah.
Might need the whiteboard soon, Kevin.
But the problem I have with that, though, in that kind of dealing is that is just the way the world works, unfortunately. And they even said in this video, they were like, if you want we don't want to be mainstream, we want to be more YouTube, and in the spirit of YouTube. But that is the spirit of YouTube. The spirit of YouTube is watching what other people do and iterating on it. That is just the nature of the beast. That is how media has always been. That is how media always will be. And the problem is you can't really go after people like that legally. All you can do is basically threaten and use whatever means. Like if you pull that to a court, you probably lose, and they know that. But they're big enough at this point to probably mobilize their audience to go after people who are actually aping their format.
The thing there, though, is they were putting in the application for the copyright, which would mean they probably wouldn't lose.
I don't think you can get a copyright on that though, because the thing is this.
They were.
I don't know that you can do that though.
They had it.
They got a copyright based on.
So that's the thing.
I don't know if you can copyright that. So you can copyright. So here's the deal though. But I really feel like people like. To me, it's the exact same thing as saying, like, look, you've got a show where I stand next to with something and talk about the news to you, right? That is a format that we did at IGN, but guess what? Everyone did that format. And if we decided to sue other people for that, it would not hold up in court. And that is just the way it goes.
Yes.
Because you can copyright, yes, and we've gone into that, like, where I came at you and I was like, you can't copyright a format. And you're like, by definition, a format is the culmination of all the things of a show. So in that regard, that makes sense. And I think that is the crux of where people had that guttural reaction to it, myself included.
Well, the bigger issue is the fact that their format is titled something that is so general.
That is
like
a problem
the fact
too.
that kids react is what they were trying to get the copyright for. And sorry, to go back for a second. So they did get the copyright for reacts, the term reacts in relation to videos where you're showing people things and interviewing them about what they think about the thing. That's the trademark that they were getting. Now, again, trademark's one of those things. I read this really fascinating article by Hank Green kind of talking about all this, about how no one knows how trademarks and copyrights work. Nobody. Like, even the people that understand it don't understand it because it doesn't mean anything until legal matters are brought into it. And at that point, then it's challenged, and then it's this whole thing where it's a case-by-case basis. So there isn't really rules to it all. But the idea with what they're doing is if they copyright it, there's something like a 30-day period where if they had waited 30 days after they had filed the thing, they would have had it and it would have been theirs. But because they put it out there to the public and there was such a negative reaction, the public has 30 days to come in and challenge it, so that they can't get the copyright on it. So had they waited just a little bit longer to put React World out there, they would have had the copyright to React videos. And if you had the words kids react in your title, that would be a problem. If you had the words teens react, that would be an issue because
would
they
Kind of
own
Funny
that.
Reacts been a problem?
No. Okay. Because they don't own Kind of Funny Reacts. Now the problem,
if you want to though, Fine Bros, hit us up.
The biggest issue, I think, and the reason that their messaging was off to people, is the fact that they were talking business to people that don't understand business.
Right, that's the problem.
And they needed to, and they understand this, but what they should have done, and it's always hard to say this to somebody when they'd be heartbroken over how they've been putting months and months, if not years, of work into this React World idea and trying to make it happen and putting it out there. And they weren't being assholes when they were like, oh, this is going to change everything. They genuinely meant that, and they wanted that to be a good thing. But they put it out there in a way of, this is how the business is going to work, and the people they don't understand that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, again, my first reaction was, you can't, like, it really is just the word format, right? If they'd have left that word out completely and said, we're going to license our brand to you, you can do videos under the brand of Reacts, which is a brand, an established brand. It's something that, to me, in my world and my knowledge of business, if you were to tell me that, I'd be like, cool, yeah, that's like doing a product under Nike's line, right? Goes without saying that I'm not going to call any apparel item we ever do Nike. That just would be fucking ridiculous, right? There's a goddamn trademark symbol under everything they do, and they will sue you, and that's something that you're going to lose. What they said was format, and I think people's understanding of format is different than the actual legal business term. When you say format, to me, that is what makes me scared, because if you were to say, hey, we're going to copyright 4 people sitting around a table talking into mics,
which we are,
which we did, by the way. We're claiming that now. I'm joking. Kevin's like, did we? Did I miss that meeting?
30 days ago.
So that's where it boils down to, and that's where I think a lot of the reaction came from, right? Because
it was a knee jerk to not understanding exactly what it was.
Right.
And people, because there were kids tweeting us being like, "What are you guys gonna do?" And it's like, that's not what this is. It's an exact format of how.
Now,
it should
the scary thing about that, though, and this is kind of the bigger issue from the business terms, and I think that they put this out there with best intentions, and I think that what happened then is people attacked them, and a lot of them were assholes, attacking them based on their looks or based on their, background and all this stuff, just because the internet has just bad mobs of people that are waiting to attack and are waiting to just be upset about something. So that's exactly what happened here.
Colin, would you agree with that?
Yes.
And so, oh man, I totally lost my point there.
The internet has bad people ready to go get offended about something. They were attacking them based on their looks.
Yeah,
because they're two handsome twin brothers.
they are beautiful.
Not twins.
Just want to make out with both these twins.
Keep talking. I'll see if it comes back.
Yeah, no, I think
your
point was that a lot of the action was unfounded, and a lot of the reaction was that knee jerk sort of like mob mentality of, let's be perfectly honest, people like to take people down that are.
I remember. So they were talking about.
That's okay.
Greg's interrupted everyone.
We can't let him lose it. I didn't interrupt anybody.
It's a good point.
I've been good.
Okay, so where it could be bad is that they then learned, like, from the feedback, there was a lot of people talking shit that were just assholes that are going to be assholes anyways. But then there was people giving valid criticism to this, to the idea of copywriting the format of Reacts and why that could be a bad thing. And what it would mean is that right now they own Kids React and Celebrities React and all those things I named earlier, Teens React. And so that's all fine and dandy. And if you want to license those things, that's cool, that's great. They'll give you the graphics packages and the Bible of how the language of how you're supposed to make the shows and stuff. And that's a big deal. Like, being able to make that show, they're essentially giving you the keys to success of, here's how you make this work. It's not just reacting to content, it's doing it correctly. But the problem there is that it then escalates, because then they are, making money off of the monetization split with all that stuff. Because they own those things. But then eventually it's like, what if they then got the Kind of Funny Reacts trademark?
Sure.
Because it does snowball that way. And they would then be like, all right, well, we're going to get nurses react and bakers react and this react, because the more they are known for reacting, the more they have that copyright. It works that way. So that is the fear. And they didn't intend to do that.
Exactly.
But that is the real world business application of it, of something that would happen in the future, which might fuck us. Or fuck the people.
Yeah, but so here's where I have the problem with that, though, is right. That's assuming that they have a nefarious goal, which I don't think they do. There might be someone in the company that's like, hey, later down the line, like, yeah, we'll start slowly getting these things, and if no one kind of opposes us, but guess what? That's just business. That's what running a corporation is. You look at the opportunity in the landscape and go, hey, how do we do this? This is legal, great, let's do it. And if anyone has a problem with it, like, we'll figure it out. But I think the thing I had was. And I had the same reaction myself, where I was like, wait a minute, like, I don't think that's what they're trying to do. What I think they're trying to do is the same thing everyone's tried to do, which is take their brand and license it out so that other people can create underneath that. And if you look at it just from that light, that's not a bad deal for people. If you're a YouTube channel that has like 10 to 15,000 subscribers and you do Reacts videos and you want to grow, why wouldn't you do that? You're going to get 50% of your ad rev away, but if they promote
not even 50, like, that's the thing, is like the percentages, like, I don't even think it'd be 50.
Well, I think I saw one video that said in the terms it was 50%, but I could be
I think we're losing. I mean, so I think I fall a little bit more in the middle here, because when I was talking to Tim about this Sunday night during the stream, actually, like towards the end when he and I were just in the kitchen, because I was like, I'm just catching up on this now. This seems to be a few days old because I don't, truth be told, like Kevin was laughing at me before, like I have no idea who the fuck the Fine Brothers are. Like I'd known that name, but I didn't even know that like they did these videos, which I have watched.
I just don't know Reacts videos.
Yeah, I've enjoyed them. The ones I've seen with like they did one with Mega Man, which I thought was funny.
You see the Game Boy one? Game Boy one.
Yeah, the Game Boy one. The Last of Us they did, which was good. So like. I watched the video because they took their videos down, but at the time they didn't. And I watched the video and I was like, all right, like about halfway through it, they were talking about it. I'm like, okay, this seems reasonable to me. But there was like a kind of a weird left turn in that video that I thought was like, to me, before I even saw their second video or watched, Boogie's reaction or anyone's reaction about it, ironically, I was like, that's weird. Where he was like, they kind of like went off on this tangent that they should have never went off on. The guy with the hat did it, where he was like, people are, and I'm just paraphrasing, but it's something like people are stealing the format and what we do, and you shouldn't support those people and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, what? Like that doesn't seem to be in the spirit of like what you're trying to say, because it seemed, I think you guys are right in that the reactions seem to be way over the top. I agree. Like, and we've all been target of internet mobs going after you for stupid things, but they didn't do themselves any favors, I don't think, in that particular video towards the end of it with the way they were talking about the brand. But it also is naive for people to expect that they were doing it for altruistic reasons. They're doing it because they want to make money. And I hate to tell you, like almost all the content you watch on YouTube or all the shows you watch on TV, everything, it's all made for money. GameOverGreggy show wouldn't exist if we weren't paid for it. Like that's the reality of making internet content, because people do it for a living. And so there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
But like I think the major messaging problem with that in mind is that they should have just come out and been like, this is a business venture and we're gonna help you out the best we can. But yeah, like of course it benefits us. Like you don't have to, you can smooth it out and have a writer write it better than that. But like I do think that they positioned it so weirdly so that when I watched the second video and they were like, we didn't say that like we own this and that, I'm like, but you kind of did say that, and like maybe that's not what you meant to say, but
there was a bit of an implication.
Yeah,
that
I was
we're
like,
gonna,
so that second video made it worse. Even.
Yeah, the problem with that though is, and again, this is not. I'm not saying that this is the solution to this or that this makes that okay, but like these are guys that have been on YouTube since the very beginning. Mm-hmm. These are guys that were part of Maker Studios and like programming their programming. Before they were even Maker Studios, back when it was the studio, like they've been through all of this shit. They're like probably the biggest YouTube channel that for the longest time was like anti network, because they're like they're not about that, like let's just get a bazillion people under this and just like treat them all like shit. Like they're about the content, they're about growing stuff. They've been so good about bringing up smaller creators and building things. Reacts alone has created countless YouTube channels based on the kids turning into grown-ups that now have YouTube channels. And like they've always been about that. And even before Reacts, they pushed YouTube to the limits. Like they were the first people to make videos that had annotations that were clickable, that were like choose your own adventure style stuff. It's like they did that. They keep innovating and stuff. Those type of people, they're the ones that are most passionate about creating and about their art. So like they take this shit real personally, and it came off, as them being like, we own this. And it's like them saying we own it. They shouldn't have, because that's when it gets to that thing of them saying like no one else can do it. That's how people take it. But what they were saying is it's like, man, these guys are literally just copying what we did and like not crediting us, not giving us a shout out, not doing anything. And they're talking about people like BuzzFeed that literally are doing kids react to this, and it's like it's pretty much the exact same thing. Us reacting is different, and yeah, people.
I mean, the problem is this though. I mean, and while I respect that, and as a creator, I mean. Please believe that I understand, and we've had those frustrations in the past too. We've done something and gone, hey, this is a pretty fun, cool idea, and then realize that 6 months later, everyone's doing something like that, right?
We started a PlayStation podcast. Suddenly, IGN's got one.
So, and it's I know it's ridiculous, right? And we came up with the word PlayStation. Sony fucking stole that from us. No, I get that, but at the same time, that is just the nature of the beast, right? Like. Again, I think that it comes down to sort of the minutia or more of a semantic argument of like they're using the word reacts in this case to reflect their brand, right? Kids Reacts is a brand, and in that case, you can go out there and you can trademark that, right? But you can't trademark the concept of Reacts. That's where it becomes weird, because if you could do that, then I say right now we need to go out there and get Let's Plays and reviews.
Oh, Sony's already trying to get Let's Plays.
PlayStation trying to get Let's Plays.
Guess what? They can't, right?
They can't. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just saying, like, I saw somewhere on some comment somewhere where someone was standing up for these guys, rightfully so, where they were like, but why wasn't anyone mad when PlayStation, like, there was some making fun of it and stuff like, but where was like the complete vitriolic anger
Oh, well,
when
it was
Sony,
there.
but not like this, like I mean, I am in the PlayStation community, you know, like I don't, and people were making fun of it on Twitter for like a day, and then it just disappeared, you know, and like that to me, I was like, Sony literally just tried to trademark Let's Play, you know what I mean, like.
Right.
So,
but that's where it comes down to it, right? It's like you can't do that, and so that's where everyone just needs to realize that probably wouldn't hold up in court if we use the term reacts in a title for even if it's a format of what we do on this channel. I don't think they would even come after us. They won't have legal grounds to come after us. Same way you don't have legal grounds to come after us for using the word reviews. It's just not the way it works. If we put teens react in something, that's where it's going to get a little weird. But guess what? In that regard, we probably shouldn't do it because that is their format. And as a creator, out of respect, we should probably not ape someone
I
else's.
concur with you.
Not ape someone else's concept. I'm going to use concept and format differently because format, to me, is a lot broader of a term that you got to be really careful when you use. Because the format of our show is 4 guys sitting around microphones talking about topics. So that's very, very dangerous because
sometimes 5.
and yeah, but the concept itself and the brand itself, I understand, and they're right to go after. They're right to try to protect that brand because that's their business and it is something they started, and there is a special something to that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like reality television wouldn't work if the legality or the laws behind formats were as stringent as they're pretending that they are. And that's just the way it goes.
But the difference is, and this gets really complicated, is that they own youtube.com/react. Like they own that. Like they do own that the term in that sense.
I'm sure someone owns youtube.com/review.
Exactly,
but they don't get to.
I know
it's not going to hold up in a court of law.
I know,
but
if they,
it's not going to happen.
But it would have had they went through this and actually got it copyrighted.
Potentially, maybe, but I doubt it. But
I mean, but it's the same. But I mean, it would have. Like that's just how it works. Like it's the same thing as if a burger place, like McDonald's, can't come out with a Whopper.
Well, first of all, there's different types of copywriting, trademarking, by the way. So there's this. It could have been trademarking for a very specific thing. Trademarking, trust me, we've been down that road. Is a very, very difficult.
Yeah, and it was.
It's very, very difficult.
It was a pain in my ass.
For videos. It was for video series that do exactly this, and this.
I just think we're losing sight. Like this is the way I think because they could have avoided this with just, in my mind, with just that left turn they took in that one video, and just being more upfront about the realities of making content and that it costs money and that people are not necessarily in it to make a gratuitous amount of money. We certainly aren't, but like we need to make a living. And there's no shame in saying like, we're going to license our ideas and license our format and like our Bible and all this kind of stuff to help you make these things. It's just, I think it's a confluence of like, you know, this one idea that like everything should be free and no one should make any money on the internet, right? Which is a fucking absurd idea and it's just not true and it's not right. And that's why, you know, that's just kind of an absurd idea. But this other idea that you can really control a format or control an idea and no one else is going to ape it. Colin and Greg Live, which was an idea I came up with when we were leaving, is a complete copy of Pardon the Interruption on ESPN in every fucking way. Like, and I've been unabashed about that,
Except
because they don't own the format. And we even put, like, if we even had a table full of shit behind us like they do, I would totally do that if we were able to do that. And maybe when we get a studio one day, I would do that too, because like Colin and Greg Live is an homage to that show,
right?
For people like us, you know. And I'm not going to come out here and say like I just came up with this great idea of 2 guys sitting in front of a microphone, 2 guys with great rapport talking about the news of the day in their little sector of interest. I watched Pardon the Interruption for fucking 15 years. You know, like, of course that's where it came from. Of course it came from talk radio and all that kind of stuff. So there's no shame in that either. I just think it's like an unfortunate like maelstrom of like this idea that you don't own anything, you can't license anything, you can't make any money. The internet's pure when no one's making any money and everyone's poor and everyone's living in a fucking cardboard box. And then the other side, which is like, you know, which is where I think they are, which is like they do want to make money. Like, and that was the idea. And if they just, and instead of saying like, this is great, this is good for everyone, like they could have positioned to be like, this is going to be great for you and it's going to be great for us. You know what I mean? And like, that was the only way, because I'll repeat, like we can't live without our Patreon supporters. We can't live without our advertising revenue. There's no shame in that. You don't have to partake in it, but at least we're open and honest about that. Like that there is a monetary gain to be made for doing the content we're doing. Not because we want to fucking run into the hills with our fucking golds, you know, our sacks full of gold coins, but because like we need to live. And in exchange for that, we give the content, or we do the content and we do it to the best of our ability. And there's no shame in that. There's just nothing wrong with that. But it seemed like they were just trying to play both sides. And I don't think that that was maybe their intent. And I don't know them. I'm not judging them personally. I don't know anyone that works there. I've never dealt with anything. I don't watch YouTube videos that much, nor do I listen to many podcasts, which is why it's ironic that I do this stuff. But like, but you know, the idea that like you just, you just have to be more upfront with people, you know? And I think that that's like what I think that is like one of the strengths of what we do is that we are upfront. You can see, at least on Patreon, exactly what we make. You can like we are upfront with you about what we need for the animated series. We all know, you know, like
yeah. Well,
and
I mean,
I just think that there's something to be said about that.
I think from their perspective, that's what they were doing though. And that's the problem is I think that at the heart of the issue, it's a David versus Goliath thing, right? I think people are scared that this gigantic YouTube channel, and it's a big YouTube channel, they got a lot of fucking money, especially when you start putting out like pictures of your staff and like all the things you can accomplish, are going out there and not saying, but somewhat indirectly inferring that if people start using the word react in anything, they're gonna go after them legally.
Yeah, it was just bad messaging.
And I think that is something they should have clarified a little bit, right? Which they tried to. But I think that, to your point, there was a spot where they were like, hey, we're doing this. We're licensing this awesome thing. We want you to create underneath our brand. And also, remember that time when people tried to ape our format and we kind of went after them? Well, yeah, we're going to try to protect against that. So the more and more you join here, the easier it'll be for us to protect against that, right? And that starts sounding like there's an imminent sort of machine that's involved.
Sure,
in this.
I understand.
To clear up the going after, too. Like, it's only been things of just like, man, they're copying our shit. Like, they never legally went
But what
after.
does copy mean, right? Like, that's my problem is like, you can't do that. Like, it's a physical. If that's the case, then anyone who's ever had a person standing here talking about news with a fucking monitor next to them is going to get sued. That's a problem.
No, but the suing, like, we're taking they're not suing them. They're just saying they're copying us and not giving us credit. Like, that. What's wrong with that? Like, if someone were to
there's nothing
copy
wrong with
this
it,
and we were to call them out because we don't like them doing it without giving us credit.
But the problem with that is like inherently, while that's fine at the beginning, but after a certain point, like you can't like that becomes an institution. That format becomes a stable of like a standardized content that you just can't. I'm sorry, it's impossible to go after from a legal means. Like it boils back to like if that's the case, then how would radio ever have come about, right? You can't have a person, a disc jockey, playing music and going out there and say it's just not something you can do, and it's not something that's good for the economy. It's not something that's good for the ecosystem of YouTube. If you're going to go out there and say we have this great idea that FYI we've been super fucking successful with, and now we're going to bash anyone that tries to iterate on this idea. That's not the way YouTube works. And in the video, they said in the spirit of what we're doing, in the spirit of YouTube, like we don't want to be mainstream, but that is a fucking mainstream tactic. That is like a Donald Trump style like intimidation tactic to go after people just because you did something and do something well, especially when you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year at it. And there's kids that are out there. I mean, granted, Ellen's not a kid, but at the same time, like people ape Ellen's shit all the time. You don't see them going after it, right? How many people are doing lip sync shit right now online, right? Like how many people are getting like bashed for that stuff? That's just the nature of how this goes. Like it's a little bit insidious to go after people who are inspired by your idea and want to do it
the
their
problem
way.
Is they're not going after them. Like this is the problem is that everyone is saying like they're going after people. They're going after people. They're not. They're not.
But rallying.
But they were striking, right?
No. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about the strikes that people need to understand is they were not striking people that were doing Reacts content. They were striking people that were doing people reacting to kids react, which sounds ironic because it's like, well, all they're doing is reacting to other people's content. But the difference is the way they do is they don't show the whole video the whole time. These people were literally having the video play in the upper right corner and reacting to it. Just the full thing. So it's getting content ID'd. No shit. That's how YouTube works.
Sure. In that regard,
can't upload someone else's
regard,
video.
That's fine. But your example of Ellen earlier, where they rallied their fan base to go after and tell the Ellen people that that's wrong, is a very, very that's an intimidation tactic. If that, I'm going off what you just said.
Yes,
if that's incorrect,
okay,
then
that's true. That happened a long time ago.
Because imagine
they realized they made a mistake,
right.
and this is before this all.
So, but that all
now.
plays into it, right? Because
No,
of
for
course
sure.
the internet never forgets. They're going to go back and figure that out and go.
They never
These
forget.
guys did it one time. Guess what they'll do again? And I'm not saying
I
this
get
is
it,
what
but like I just don't
defines-
understand what's so wrong with them being like, man, like we're doing this thing and they're not even giving us credit. That's all they said. They're not suing Ellen.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like per
they're
se.
not suing anyone.
I
There's
don't
no
think there's
legal
anything
means
wrong
at
with that.
all.
And again, from a content creator side, I kudos to them for doing it. But they're fighting against the tide that is just not the way things go, and it sucks. But that is just the way it is, right? Like that's a deep rabbit hole to start going down because then who owns what, right? Who owns what? Who owns animated? Like the first person to draw something in the series of 24 frames and put it together owns everything animated. Like how does that work, right? And so like. Is it that, and this is where a court would have to come in and judge on this and rule on this, because even if they have the copyright, you would have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars defending this, saying like, how different is this product from what they were doing? Because it's different talent, and they're reacting to different things, right? And so again, this is where all the fear comes in, because no one wants to go through that, and people are scared that the content that they're doing that might be paying some of their bills, the big bad fine brothers are going to come take that away from them. But that's the problem of what's happening right now, is they didn't say any of that. That's not their intent. Their intent, and I believe this, was simply to say, we have an awesome brand. If you want to be a part of this awesome brand, you can now. This is the way to do it. And from that regard, I think it's really, really sad what happened to him, simply because that is a fucking crazy kind of cutting edge idea, on YouTube at least. In the TV world, it's been happening all the time. Like, Andy Cohen starts Real Housewives of Orange County, and then they make 50 of those things, and that's what happens, and other people get involved, and boom, you're ready to rock and roll. But on YouTube, it's kind of cutting edge, and it sucks that their messaging wasn't thought out enough to the point like where they could have got around some of this negative reaction to it. But lo and behold, the internet overreacted. I mean, that's not the first time that's happened, and it's not going to be the last time it happened.
It happens every day. And that's what the internet does. And that was a good reminder of, we've all been there, not to the extent that these guys have got it, of course, but but it was sad to see it go down, because obviously, like, they are not bad people.
No.
But I just think that there could have just been a little more transparency as well. I don't want to say necessarily I see both sides, but I do think because I don't understand why anyone would treat someone like that, unless they're like, a fucking, like Adolf Hitler incarnate or something like that. Like, I don't understand why, like, is it that important that we like have to get so mad about like this? It's a fucking YouTube video, it's a YouTube video. So let's keep things in context. But I am sad for them that they had to like do all these things and kind of tuck the tail between their legs and take it all back. But we've all been in those kinds of positions too. And so on a personal level, I thought it was really sad to watch.
Yeah.
Kind of like
I want to read the final message that they put up yesterday. Mm-hmm. So it's a message from the Fine Bros. Hello, we're here to apologize. We realize we built a system that could easily be used for wrong. We're fixing that. The reality that trademarks like these could be used to theoretically give companies, including ours, the power to police and control online video is a valid concern. And though we can assert our intentions are pure, there's no way to prove them. We've decided to do the following. 1, rescind all of our React trademarks and applications. 2, discontinue the React World program. 3, release all past Content ID claims. The concerns people have about React World are understandable, and that people see a link between that and our past video takedowns, but those were mistakes from an earlier time. It makes perfect sense for people to distrust our motives here, but we are confident that our actions will speak louder than these words moving forward. This has been a hard week. Our plan is to keep making great content with the help of our amazing staff. Thank you for your time and hearing us out. Sincerely, Benny and Rafi Fine. So it's like, that just sucks, man. Like, it just sucks that they just need to be there. They're just taking such a hit of just like, fuck, this whole thing that we planned out, we're just not doing it all. And we're just going to keep going. We're not going to trademark this thing that we could totally have gotten the trademark for. And we're just going to just keep going. We're going to lose all those subscribers we lost. We're just going to keep going. Having said that, this shows that they're just like, they fucked up, they understand, and they're sorry.
Yeah.
They want to fix this shit.
And those people will watch those videos.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, great, they lost 200,000. So many people on Reddit are like, yeah, we fucking did it. Fuck them. And I'm seeing so many people that I personally know talking shit about the Fine Bros. I'm like, you don't even fucking know them. You don't know their content. You don't know anything about this. You're just trying to partake in this, people are mad. We're all going to be mad together. And I'm like,
that's that echo chamber.
It's such fucking bullshit.
It's a good reminder.
These are good dudes that are trying to do good things. And it's like, again, yeah, they're a business. They are a business. Realize that.
That's fine. And that's the point I'm trying to make, is that more power to you. I hope you make fucking millions and millions and millions of dollars making these videos. Like, good for you. That's fantastic. Go buy a mansion. I mean, that's great. That's what capitalism is. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I do. So that part of it is just like totally fine. It's just that like the internet requires, it seems like, a gentler touch, right? And either you do it or you don't. And I often don't do it. And I deal with the repercussions and the consequences of that all the time. And maybe our company does as well. I don't know. But like, sometimes you have to be true to yourself, and sometimes you have to be true to your message. But when you're that big, and when you are touching that many things, or you have those many videos with those many views, and are anticipating some sort of licensing agreement and something that's a little muddy and a little weird and a little maybe old media on something that's very cutting edge new media, like Nick was saying, it requires like a different touch. But I think it is a good reminder. This whole situation is a good reminder to remember that the people on the other side of these things are people, and the harsh reality of the situation, and I talked about this actually on our Facebook group with people, a week or two ago, where I was like, the reality is that we all have to put on a face for different people at different times, whether you have to go to work or all these kinds of things people have brought up at that point. But you're not going to quite know what it's like to have thousands of anonymous people just talk shit about you and just shit on you and shit on what you do and call your character into question and stuff like that. And that happens to all of us. And so maybe we can relate to it in a little bit of a different way, where it's like people make mistakes, and like maybe we have to just back things up. And you can be mad and make your video and all this kind of stuff. But some of the shit I saw out there, some of the vitriol was like over the top. Like you'd think that like maybe we can use this vitriol or this energy on something that fucking matters. You know what I mean? Like that would be at some point, you know, like yeah, we conquered the Fine Brothers, or lost 200,000 scars. That's fantastic, but like if that's what you want, but like why would you want that to begin with? Like, does it really matter? And do people really deserve the vitriol and the energy, this negative energy that's sent to their way? And maybe you can only relate to it when it really has happened to you, in some regard, in some respects. So I encourage people to keep that in mind, because it's not easy. Like seeing those guys' worn, beaten faces in that second video alone, even though I didn't agree with some of the things they were saying, I thought they were backtracking and kind of changing their story a little bit. At least that's what it sounded like. That is my opinion. Still, like seeing those guys, it looked like they just didn't sleep and they were in bad shape, and I'm like that sucks.
That's the thing is I don't know them too well. I know them well enough, and I know their content that I've been watching for years, and I know people that work there, and it's like seeing all this happen, I was like, fuck, man. Like, there's not a YouTube channel in existence that I know of that puts as much care into moderating the comments and like making sure that what they're putting out there is good stuff that people like. They respond to so many comments. They have 14 fucking million subscribers, or 13 million.
I was gonna say not anymore,
but that's insane that they have that many things and they are still in the comments. They have people on staff just to be in the comments responding to things like that. They're all about that shit, and it's like to see this, like I'm sure it kills them, because there's so many people saying like, oh, they're the big bad company going after the little guy, and it's like, fuck, man, like they are the guys that support the little guys.
They were the grassroots guys who made it,
and now they made it, and they've helped so many little guys.
Sure.
I mean, I feel like the problem is that this is not a black and white issue, right?
It's
I mean,
complicated.
I think that there are some. I'm sure that they've had time to reflect on this, and I'm sure that they've looked at it and said, okay, I can see how. Given our past, I mean, they even said in that Medium article they posted that they said, okay, given some of our past transgressions, which we, have apologized for, we can understand how this might be misconstrued, so we're taking steps toward rectifying that. The problem I always have is that the internet doesn't give a shit about retractions, and the internet doesn't give a shit about actually knowing what they're talking about. People just like to look at people who are successful and assume they're evil, and not bother reading up on the issue, and or giving it any proper due before they render an opinion. And I think that's the problem. And that's the one thing that I want, if we said anything in this episode that comes out to be factually inaccurate, in a week from now, or if something else happens, please post it in the comments, like talk about it. Don't bash the Fine Bros again. Just, take the time to actually like research this issue, listen to other people before you render an opinion, because to Colin's point, it fucking sucks when people just go, oh, those guys, I kind of know who they are. I'm going to fucking shit on them right now. And that's just it's not the community that we want to build here at Kinda Funny, and it's not the community that you should really be a part of. You should ask yourself whether or not that's something that you want to do, because it's inherently very negative.